2 years ago, I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a pile of stuff I just bought from Target. Candles I didn't need, a throw pillow to replace a throw pillow that was perfectly fine, a kitchen gadget still in the box. From the last kitchen gadget I bought and never opened. My credit card statement showed $4,100 in charges that month. My savings account showed $812. I made $63,000 a year. I had been making over $50,000 for 6 years. I had essentially nothing to show for it. That same week, I read an article about a Japanese woman named Fumiko Chiba who wrote a book about a century-old budgeting system called Kakebo. What caught my attention wasn't the system itself. It was a detail buried in the article. Chiba mentioned that many Japanese households she studied had been using some version of these financial habits for generations, grandmothers passing them to mothers, mothers passing them to daughters, families building wealth quietly across decades using principles so simple they felt almost insulting compared to the complicated advice I'd been consuming on YouTube and Instagram for years. But here's what really hit me. Japan's cultural relationship with money is almost the mirror opposite of America's. In the US, we celebrate spending. New car, new house, new wardrobe, congratulations. Wealth is performed, it's visible, it's posted in. In Japan, wealth is hidden. It's considered tasteless to display it. Financial restraint isn't a sacrifice, it's a value. There's even a word for it, tsutsumashi. It roughly means modestly reserved, and it carries deep social respect. The quieter you live, the more admired you are. In America, the quieter you live, the more people assume you're struggling. I started applying these principles to my own life, one at a time, over the following year. I didn't change my income, I didn't start a side hustle, I didn't cancel every subscription or stop eating out entirely. I just changed the philosophy underneath my spending. In 12 months, I went from $812 in savings to over $19,000. Same job, same salary, same apartment, different operating system. This video is about that system. 10 Japanese money habits that build quiet, lasting wealth, and that most Americans have never heard of. Every single one is applicable to your financial life in the US, right now, in 2026, regardless of what you earn. Let's get into it. Abi 1. Kakebo. The handwritten household ledger. This is the foundation, and it's over 120 years old. Kakebo was invented in 1904 by Hani Motoko, Japan's first female journalist, at a time when women in Japan had almost no financial autonomy. She designed it as a tool for housewives to take control of family spending using nothing but a notebook and a pen. The idea is brutally simple. At the beginning of each month, you write down 4 things by hand. How much money is coming in, how much you need for fixed expenses, how much you want to save, and how much you have left to spend. Then, every single day, you write down what you spent and sort each purchase into one of 4 categories: needs, wants, culture, and unexpected expenses. Culture includes books and experiences. At the end of the month, you review everything and ask yourself 3 questions. How much did I save? What went well? What can I improve next month? That's it. That's the entire system. It sounds almost too simple to work, and that's exactly why it does. Here's what makes Kakebo different from every budgeting app on your phone. The physical act of writing forces your brain to process each purchase consciously. When you tap a card and a number flashes on a screen, your brain barely registers it. When you sit down at night and write DoorDash $42. Wants? Your hand is telling your brain something your app never could. You chose to spend $42 on food delivery. That was a want, not a need, not culture, a want. Practitioners claim Kakebo can reduce unnecessary spending by up to 35%. I didn't hit 35% in my first month, but I hit about 22, which on my income at the time was roughly $1,150, saved in a single month from a notebook that cost $3. The reason this matters in the US is that 47% of Americans entered 2026 without any budget at all, according to data. Among those who do budget, most use apps that automate the process, which means they never develop the conscious spending awareness that Kakebo builds. The app does the work. Your brain stays asleep. Kakebo forces your brain to wake up, and once it's awake, it doesn't go back to sleep easily. My friend Danielle tried Kakebo for 6 weeks after years of using budgeting apps that she would download and abandon. She told me the difference was that the apps made her feel like a passive observer. Writing it down by hand forced her to process every purchase twice, once when she made it and once when she recorded it. By week 3, she started pausing before purchases and mentally categorizing them before she reached for her wallet. Do I want to write this down tonight? Became her filter. If the answer was no, she didn't buy it. Her discretionary spending dropped by $400 in the first month. Habitgox. Mottainai. The deep shame of waste. This is a concept that has no direct English translation. Mottainai is a feeling. It's the emotional response of regret and discomfort that arises when something useful is wasted, discarded, or undervalued. In Japanese culture, wasting a resource, whether it's food, fabric, money, or even time, is considered almost morally wrong. Contrast this with America, where waste is structurally embedded in the consumer economy. American households waste roughly 30% of the food they buy. That's approximately $2,100 wasted yearly per household, thrown directly in the garbage. Americans discard roughly 82 pounds of textiles per person per year. We replace smartphones every 2 to 3 years when devices are engineered to last 4. We throw away furniture when we move instead of taking it with us. When I started practicing Mottainai, I tracked food waste for 1 week. I photographed everything I threw away from my fridge. The amount was genuinely shocking. Half a bag of spinach, leftover rice I forgot about, expired yogurt, a quarter of a rotisserie chicken. I was throwing away roughly $40 of food per week. That's over $2,000 a year from my refrigerator. I started meal planning around what I already had. I started freezing leftovers the same day. I started buying smaller quantities more often instead of bulk buying. Within 3 months, my grocery spending dropped by 30%. Not because I was eating less, but because I was wasting less. Mottainai extends far beyond food. It changes how you relate to everything you own. You repair instead of replace. You use something completely before buying the next version. You find a second purpose for items. Apply that philosophy to your life. The thing that's slightly worn, slightly outdated, or slightly imperfect still works, still serves you. Mottainai teaches you to see that value. Habitoi. Ara achibu. Eat until you are 80% full. This principle comes from Confucian teaching and is practiced widely in Okinawa. Stop eating when you feel about 80% satisfied. Most Americans eat until discomfort. We pile plates, we supersize, we order appetizers and desserts, and feel compelled to finish everything. The financial implications are enormous. When you translate it into a general philosophy of enough, it means you don't fill your life to 100% capacity. You leave room in your stomach, room in your closet, room in your budget. That remaining 20% isn't deprivation, it's margin, and margin is where wealth lives. Applying this to spending means leaving 20% of your income untouched. If you earn $4,200 a month, you live as though you earn $3,360. That $840 goes to savings automatically. You don't touch it because it doesn't exist in your spending reality. U.S. personal savings rate sat at 4%. The Japanese cultural default targets 20%. That 1.6-point gap is the difference between retiring, anxious, or comfortable. On a $60,000 salary, it's the difference between saving $2,400 or saving $12,000. Over 30 years at 8% returns, that gap becomes the difference between $293,000 and $1.47 million. Habit 4. Kaizen. Continuous small improvement. You don't try to overhaul your life in one dramatic move. You improve by 1% repeatedly over a very long period of time. Applied to money, Kaizen looks like this. This month, you reduce dining out by 10%. Next month, you increase retirement by 1%. Each change is so small it feels insignificant. Each change is so easy it requires no willpower. But 12 months of Kaizen produces a completely different life. Habit 5. Ikigai. Your reason for being. When you apply Ikigai to money, it answers the question, what is the money for? Most people accumulate without purpose. When you know the life you are building, every spending decision becomes a vote for or against that life. My friend Terrence defined his Ikigai as being present for his daughter. Once he had that clarity, every unnecessary purchase became an obstacle. He didn't need willpower. He needed purpose. Abisis. Wabi-sabi. Finding beauty in imperfection. It is the direct antidote to consumer culture. In America, imperfection is a reason to replace. Wabi-sabi invites you to find satisfaction in things that still work. A cracked bowl that still holds soup. A wooden table with scratches that tell a story of family dinners. Finding beauty in what you already have can save thousands of dollars over time. Habit 7. Osoji. The annual financial reset. Performed at the end of each year. Applied to finances, it's a complete audit. Once a year, sit down and review every subscription and recurring charge. Cancel what isn't serving you. Realignment with your current goals. Most people set up systems and never revisit. An annual Osoji catches all the leaks. Habit 8. Chokin. The habit of saving first. Chokin literally means savings, but it represents a specific habit. You save before you spend. Not whatever is left over at the end. The first thing that happens when money enters your account is that a portion of it leaves immediately. It goes into a savings or investment vehicle. The typical American pattern is earn, spend, and hope something is left. Chokin breaks Parkinson's law. Spending expands to fill the income available. Habit 9. Shinrin Yoku and free living. Shinrin Yoku means forest bathing, spending quiet, contemplative time in nature. The broader principle is free living, the choice to build your leisure life around activities that don't cost money. In the US, leisure is synonymous with spending. Japanese culture offers a different model. Walking, cooking together, reading, park visits, temple visits. The richest moments of daily life happen without a transaction. Abidis. Hansei. Honest self-reflection. Sincere and rigorous self-reflection. It's not self-criticism or guilt. It's an honest examination of what you did, what went well, and what you'll do differently. Applied to finances, it's the monthly review. Ask yourself, did I meet my savings goal? What purchases brought me genuine value? What would I do differently next month? This habit is the mechanism by which all other habits improve. Everything I've described operates like compound interest. Small, consistent inputs, repeated over time, producing results that are wildly disproportionate to the effort. A $3 notebook and 10 minutes a day of Kakebo doesn't sound like a strategy. Neither does leaving 20% of your plate empty. But these tiny behaviors, stacked on top of each other, produce a relationship with money that is grounded and sustainable. You don't need a bigger paycheck to start building wealth. You might already earn enough. You just need a notebook, a pen, and the willingness to pay attention to where your money actually goes. That's where it starts. It always starts there. Tiny habits lead to big change. Focus on the process every day. Respect your money as a resource. Respect yourself as the steward. Quiet discipline is the key. Wealth grows slowly and intentionally. Like a well-tended Japanese garden. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed, nothing performed for an audience. Just quiet, lasting security. Start your journey today. Start building your wealth now.